Hello and welcome to another episode of the Happy Movie Mangoes podcast. This is totally the first time that we're recording this. So, for those of you who don't know, usually we record this online, like through Zoom, but we're in person today, and we had some technical difficulties is all I'll say.
Yeah. But at least I have a good mic now, so.
Yep. So you might hear a difference in the audio quality. But I'm excited for today's episode because we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite actors of all time.
All right. And Dallin won't be here today, but we have his list, so we'll just go me, Dallin, and Spencer, and starting with number 5.
Yep. The audience probably thinks Dallin doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, we killed him.
No, we did not kill him.
Allegedly.
Also, for your information, we record these in sessions, so like if he misses a session, then he misses a bunch of episodes. So that's why he seems like he's non-existent.
Yeah, and he always misses them.
All right, let's jump into our lists.
Okay. All right, so I'm starting with my number 5 favorite actor of all time, which is Gary Oldman. So for those who don't know, Gary Oldman is Jim Gordon in the Christian Bale Batman movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretending like I don't recognize him because Matt already explained this to me.
Yep.
But now I know who he is because he already explained this to
me. He's Sirius Black in the Harry Potter movies, and he was recently in Oppenheimer as Harry Truman so the president. That Oppenheimer goes into his office and Truman calls him a crybaby afterwards.
Yeah, I did not recognize him in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, so I think he's got like old and fat makeup on for that scene, but I recently watched him in Hannibal, and he was really good in that. And I didn't recognize because he's wearing like Hannibal. Basically made him cut his own face up, so he drugged him up and like had him carve his own face. So you're looking at the person and you don't recognize who it is as the actor. So I looked it up afterwards and realized it was Gary Oldman, and I was like, wow, like that movie sucked, but he did a really good job.
Yeah. So. He's got to be becoming an old man now.
That joke's better the second time.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So Dallin's number 5 favorite actor of all time is Anthony Hopkins, who plays Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs.
Which I have not seen Silence of the Lambs, and I did not recognize the name Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. He's the mentor in The Mask of Zorro who teaches Zorro how to fight and to become the next Zorro. So he does a really good job in that.
So do you like him as an actor too?
Oh, yeah. I think he does a great job. I think he's like probably in the top 20 favorite actors of all time for my list, though. Oh. So he wouldn't be like top 10 or top 5, but I think he's really good. So,
yeah.
So what's your 5th favorite actor of all time, Spencer?
So I need to say this before my list. I always say something before my lists. But this was a very different experience creating this list than the top 5 directors list, because directors I don't really care about as much, but actors I do. Like if a certain actor is in a movie, I will go see that movie, or it'll, influence me to see that movie more than if that actor was not in the movie.
As opposed to like, you don't really care if a director is
right.
Going to direct a certain movie.
The only one I might care about is Christopher Nolan, because he's my favorite director. If you listen to that episode, spoilers. But my number 5 is Will Smith, and I feel like I can't say the joke now this time because it's not as funny the second time. But I'll say it for the audience. I said Will Smith slaps. Literally. But one of the reasons why I like Will Smith, so some of the movies he's in Men in Black, I Am Legend, Hitch, Pursuit of Happiness,
iRobot, Independence Day,
Gemini Man.
What else?
He's in a lot of stuff.
Suicide Squad, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But one of the reasons why I picked him is because all of these movies are like different types of movies. Like a lot of them are action. Oh, we can't forget Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's probably, that's where he got started, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, that's what made him big.
But yeah, he's done all these different movies, which are different types of movies, like action. I feel like Hitch is like a rom-com. Pursuit of Happiness is like
sappy movie.
Yeah. So it just shows like his skills as an actor, because he can do multiple different roles. Whereas I feel like some actors are famous for their one role, and that's what they're really good at. For example, like Daniel Radcliffe was Harry Potter. I mean, he's trying to branch out more,
Yeah, they always try to do that.
but like Daniel Radcliffe will always be Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah. Same with like I think Johnny Depp, in my opinion, where it's like he was really good for Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's like okay and all his other stuff. But and I also think I want to just like I think for Will Smith, it's important to also note the movies he was considered for. Like he was considered for The Matrix as Neo,
Oh yeah.
and he was also considered for Django Unchained. So for the role of Django, so he was considered both before Keanu Reeves in The Matrix and before Jamie Foxx in Django Unchained.
Yeah.
Because I think he like, although those actors probably did it better than he would have, I think he also would have done a really good job. So,
Yeah.
very charismatic guy,
Yeah.
except for at the Oscars. Okay, so I think we're ready for number 4.
Who's your number 4 favorite actor?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
I considered him for my list.
yeah, I think he is super entertaining, one, but also like sells his roles. So I think like there's a lot of actors who are just very charismatic. Like I think most of the Avengers cast are like just very charismatic people, which makes their roles really good. Whereas like Samuel L. Jackson's actually just like really good at like elevating the role and making the character feel believable and like bringing you into like the movie experience. So it's like I think he just like is a step above all of them. And no matter what role he does, I think he's really good and puts 100%. Like whether it's like Jules in Pulp Fiction or Mace Windu in the prequels, which were poorly directed movies, but he still brought his A game.
My favorite role of Samuel L. Jackson is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I feel like he does a really good job in that. And an eye patch just suits him so well.
It brings so much life to his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does bring a lot of swagger to that role and role of a leader and a boss really well. So. Okay, so Dallon's number 4 favorite actor of all time is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
That's who I always think of when someone says Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I think obviously he's like what made him big was Titanic, but the meme that I think of when I think of Leonardo DiCaprio is like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he's like doing that whoop, you know, that like pointing at the TV screen.
Yeah, we'll put it on the screen for those of you who are watching.
It's a good meme, and I think he like, but it proves that he's like just a really good actor. He's also one who like puts every effort he has into all of his roles. So you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Spencer?
I have not.
Okay, so there's like a scene. So he plays an actor in that movie.
Oh, that would be hard.
Yeah, so there's a scene where the actor's like in his trailer and he's failing at this one scene, so he's just in his trailer like, you know, beating himself up and like yelling at himself and like crying and like trying to, because he's upset he can't do this one scene like perfectly well, and then like the next time he does it he just nails it and everyone's like moved emotionally. So
Yeah.
and he's like, but I think Leonardo DiCaprio said like yeah, sometimes that's how it is and how I feel. So,
Oh yeah, that's cool.
yeah, so he's a really good guy. He's
Yeah.
a good actor.
Yeah. My favorite meme is the one in Great Gatsby where he's like holding the drink and he like nods his head towards you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one's great. We'll also put that one on the screen.
Perfect. Yeah. What a guy.
Yeah.
So what's your number 4 favorite actor of all time?
So my number 4, and I hope this doesn't cause any tension between us, but it is Harrison Ford.
Oh, okay.
So,
Why would that cause tension?
because I thought you might put him higher on your list and you might be like,
Oh,
why the heck is he number 4?
Hey, I'm just glad he's on your list. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So if you don't know who Harrison Ford is, you're stupid. But he's in Blade Runner. He's in Star Wars. He's in Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Air Force One.
Age of Adeline.
He's in 42.
Ender's Game. Lots of stuff.
Yeah. I was like,
But he's very recognizable. And he's in The Fugitive. That's one of my favorite
I thought
movies.
you said that already, but yeah.
I didn't say
Okay.
Fugitive. Yeah, that one's really good too.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just whatever role he's doing, he just is really good. I don't know how else to describe it. Like his mannerisms or dialogue, I don't know. It goes so well.
Yeah, I think I think he's really good at like reading the room, and so he can really like deliver, you know, as far as what the scene needs and where it needs to go. And so I think he's like basically a chameleon when it comes to people, and that's what makes him really good at acting as well. So yeah, I think He's just really great. All right, we're ready for number 3?
Yep.
Okay. So my third favorite actor of all time is Christian Bale.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So I think like his more notable roles is obviously Batman, American Psycho, where he plays Patrick Bateman. And I don't know. What do you think his like third most iconic movie is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
So he's also one where it's like, he's not necessarily like a person I go to the theaters to see his movies, but like no matter what role he does, I think he does a really good job. So did you see Thor Love and Thunder?
I think so.
So that movie was terrible, but
Oh, no, I did not see it.
okay. But he's the villain in that movie, and he does a really good job in that movie. Like,
Oh,
yeah. So it's like,
that's interesting. He was the villain because I feel like he doesn't normally play the villain.
yeah. So I don't think he was even going to do that movie when he was asked, but his kids like begged him to. So he decided to do it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's just like a funny contrast when you watch that movie where it's like he does a really good job for his roles and everyone else kind of like does okay, you know? And no matter like what situation he's in, he just puts 100% effort in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think he does an excellent job. He's also in The Prestige. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, I have,
Yeah.
actually.
So that he does a great job in that. That's probably his third most iconic movie is
Yeah.
The Prestige. Yeah, he does a great job. He was in Newsies, and I hate Newsies.
I don't think I've seen Newsies.
It's a stupid musical.
Isn't it a play?
Yeah, like a
Originally a play?
like Broadway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Was he in the Broadway one, or was
No,
it just the movie?
just
version?
the movie?
Oh, okay.
So he's not good. But
Gotcha.
well, you know, he's good in that movie. That movie's not good. So Down's number 3 favorite actor of all time is also Christian Bale.
Oh.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's like you guys are brothers.
It's like I just copied his list after he made it and sent it to me.
Did you really? No.
I'm pretty sure I pretended not to, but it's you'll have to hear his list and then you'll be like, yeah, he just copied his list. So, what's your third favorite actor of all time?
My third is Jack Black.
Oh, okay.
So Jack Black, I feel like he's well known for School of Rock,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the reasons I picked him is he's also some more live action. He's in Nacho Libre and he's in Weird Al. But one of the reasons I picked him is he's also in a lot of animated movies because of his voice. And one of the reasons why I picked him is because he's super iconic. Like whatever role he's in, you recognize him. And even if you don't see him and you hear him, you still recognize him. Like his voice is also iconic. So that's why I picked him as my third overall, because both his voice and his, I guess, image is very iconic.
Yeah, I think he's also very has a lot of range, and especially with his voice, because he sings also in real life, and so I think with his voice acting, like he can play Bowser or a villain, or he can play like Po, who's like a hero in Kung Fu Panda, and bring like the emotions of both of those characters through his voice, and he does like a really good job. I think it's like probably doesn't have as many roles or serious roles just because of his looks, He's
kind of a shorter, stubbier dude.
Yeah, just to put it nicely. Which I think is unfortunate. Even still with all his fame and money, he's still underrated and deserves better roles. So
yeah, he seems like, I think I've seen some videos of him not acting, and he just seems like a genuinely nice guy. Like even though he's super wealthy, he just seems like an average dude.
Yeah.
But extra charismatic.
Yeah, I think that's also what I hear like with all his co-stars, is like they all love him because he's such like a genuine nice guy and funny.
All right, let's move on to our number 2s.
Okay. My number 2 favorite actor of all time will surprise Spencer. It's Harrison Ford. Oh.
I would have been shocked if he was not on your list.
Yeah. I think Harrison Ford, I'm trying to like pin down exactly like what makes him like so good, but I can't. It's just somehow like magically, charismatically, he just nails every role. Like Han Solo, even though he like hates that character and hates that role, he still like does a really good job in that.
Yeah.
Movies. Like even like The Force Awakens, which wasn't really that good, he still like brought a lot of heart into that character. And it's hard to like for actors in general just to.
Yeah. I was just reminded of something that I remember talking about in school in one of my film classes, but some of my professors talked about certain actors having the it factor. And basically what that is like people can't stop watching whenever that actor is like on screen. And so that's why it's called the it factor. So movie producers would always try and get actors who have the it factor so more people would watch it. And I feel like Harrison Ford is one of the ones that has the it factor.
Yeah, and he does like a wide variety of roles as well. So he's my number 2. Dallin's number 2 favorite actor of all time is Samuel L. Jackson.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Number 2. Wow.
that's his second favorite. Yeah. And you gotta hand it to him. Gotta hand it to the guy. So,
Yeah.
I think like he really shines in also all of Tarantino's films as well. So
Yeah. Been a while since I've seen Pulp Fiction. Was he wasn't the main character in Pulp Fiction, was he?
it was kind of like telling like 3 different stories. So he was like
A
one
third?
of them. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
he's
okay.
like he's definitely like one of the more like the most memorable character, I would say, in
Gotcha.
that movie.
Because I was going to say, I recognize him most from the Avengers stuff or Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's more of a supporting role. So I recognize him more as a supporting actor,
Uh-huh.
which I feel like the ones on my list are all main actors. But I guess not everyone sees Samuel L. Jackson as a supporting actor.
Yeah, he's kind of a main character or he is a main character, I would say, in The Hateful Eight. So he's like, I think he's the main character in that, and he's really good. Yeah, a lot of these, I think, roles, it's like not necessarily they're always like the protagonist. Like Gary Oldman, I don't think or Anthony Hopkins, they're rarely ever the protagonist, if ever. So, but they do a really good job for the roles. But I also feel like a lot of main characters for a lot of movies, they pick people who are very one note for that role, like Daniel Radcliffe, where it's like he's probably just really good at that one role and not really at other things. And so I think market wise, people try to find those people because then it's different, right? Where it's like Leonardo DiCaprio's like people see him as that instead of maybe their character that they're trying to portray.
That's
So
true.
that's Dallin's number 2. What's your number 2, Spencer?
My number 2 is Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
So I don't know if that's surprising or not.
it is. It is.
But he's in Deadpool. He's in The Proposal.
He's in Deadpool 2.
He's in Deadpool and Wolverine. He's in Free Guy, which is part of the reason why I picked him, which
Okay.
I'll talk about in a minute. He's in Just Friends, which is another reason why I picked him, and I'll get into that in a minute. He's also in the new If, which I have not seen.
If?
Yeah, the like one with the purple. It's like an animated. You haven't heard of that?
No. I think the only animated movie I know where it's kind of animated is like Detective Pikachu.
Well, it's like part animated, part live action.
Yeah, that's like Detective Pikachu too.
Oh, okay. Wait, there's live characters in Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, have you seen that movie?
I have not.
So he plays Pikachu in that movie.
Oh.
So maybe you'd like it.
I probably would, honestly.
I hated it, but I was like, it's kind of like a kid's movie. So if he was like a foul mouth Pikachu, then I think it would be awesome.
Yeah. So the reason I picked Ryan Reynolds, I do like the Deadpool movies. They're not like my favorite, but they are funny. But the main reasons is for Free Guy and Just Friends. So Free Guy is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I just really love it. And he's the main actor in it. And then Just Friends is part of the reason why I'm married to my wife is because of that movie.
Oh.
And so that's another reason why I picked that. So I guess I'll tell that story really briefly in case you don't know it. But me and my friends, including my now wife, Julie, went to Las Vegas just for fun. And we all got one hotel room with like multiple beds and stuff.
Separate beds.
Yes. And we were just like, I think it was really hot. And so that's why we were inside because Las Vegas is super hot. But we're like, let's watch a movie. I think it was late at night too. So somehow we ended up on Just Friends. The whole premise of that movie is this guy really likes this girl, but they're just friends, And so it's about getting out of the friend zone. And that night we ended up talking about the friend zone as like a friend group and a way to get out of the friend zone. And I kind of used that to date Julie because we had known each other as friends for a couple of years before we started dating. So long story short, Ryan Reynolds helped me get my wife.
Wow. And you never thanked him once.
Well, I don't know him personally, so
You could write a letter.
I could write a letter.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so Ryan Reynolds number 2. Very nice.
All right, top actors of all time.
Okay. All right, this is my number 1. Heath Ledger.
Oh,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger.
Mm-hmm. So most
I'm not surprised.
famously for A Knight's Tale.
No, you're wrong. It's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, I thought it was Brokeback Mountain. I think like he's really good in all those other roles, but I think like the best acting I've ever seen in my life is Heath Ledger's the Joker in The Dark Knight. Like I don't think anyone else tops it.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard Daniel Day-Lewis, who's like,
I don't even know who that is.
yeah, exactly. So it's like I've heard he's really good, but it's like I think Heath Ledger just like that role specifically really good. It's kind of like, and I think people like think that's kind of weird because like Joker's like a psychopath and a villain and a bad guy, and like why do people like it, and why do people like Heath Ledger's Joker? And it's like I think it's because he brings so much character and like thrilling like moments into that role where it's like most people can't like play that and pull it off and can't execute it like the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, really 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 good.
Yeah.
So
Is Downs also Heath Ledger?
no, you ready for this?
It's not Heath Ledger?
It's not Heath Ledger.
I'm actually kind of surprised.
It's Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. What?
Yeah,
The armpit of actors.
he's like I think Brad Pitt is like great. Like I think he's a charismatic dude, but I think like as far as acting goes, it's like not as good as some others.
Yeah.
Like, did you watch Inglourious Bastards?
I did. It's been a long time though, so I don't really remember it.
Okay, so I think like he also shines in Tarantino films where like he just is really good in those roles.
Yeah.
But I think like, or like people really like Troy, where he's like Achilles in Troy, which is a more serious role where he plays kind of like this very anti-hero, but he's also just extremely handsome, and he was in Fight Club. So
Yeah, that's one movie that I want to see that I have not seen.
mm-hmm.
But isn't the number one rule of Fight Club not to talk about Fight Club? So I feel like I can't watch it. No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
right. Yeah, I think, and I thought Fight Club was good, and I think he was like good in it. If you ask me, I think he's just like really, really good looking. So,
Hot girl.
he's just got those nice shiny abs that's basically made him millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, we're already on yours. All right. Hit us.
Yep.
You know.
So I'm surprised that it's not Heath Ledger because mine is Heath Ledger for number 1.
Whoa! I'm blown away.
You're blown away?
Yeah. I would never like, for some reason, I just think you're always like against my wavelengths. So, wow.
So I have seen 10 Things I Hate About You, which I thought was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely not his best role. Like the Joker is definitely the best role. Whenever someone talks about good acting, that is the role that is like the role to be. Like it's the number one best acting of all time.
Yeah.
Hands down. One of my favorite, I thought I'd mentioned one of my favorite parts of his acting in that. It's when he's walking away from the hospital and he's trying to blow it up and the button wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've heard that like it was supposed to happen right away when he presses the button, but he pressed it and nothing happened. And so he was confused. But he is so good at acting that he just played it off as the Joker.
Yeah.
And then it ended up working super well for that scene.
Right.
And so I think that's just one example of how good of an actor he is.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's almost close to Method where he doesn't like, it's not like just for that second he's that character. It's like he's just that character.
Mm-hmm.
And even like moments before the role where he tries to psych himself up for it. And so, and I do want to refute though that some people say because people like mention that character in that role and they bring up like how his death made people want to like elevate it more than what it is. And I disagree with that, where it's like, I think even if he hadn't died, I think people would still say that role in that movie was like exceptional.
Yeah.
And because, you know, I'm very like a cynical, like don't take things at face value. And like, I watched that movie and I was just like blown away from his acting. So
yeah, I think it's really sad that he's passed away because he probably could have had some equally as good roles in the future if he hadn't have passed away, I think.
Yeah, I would have loved to see his reprisal as Joker in like The Dark Knight Rises and see what that movie could have been like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was ever planned, like if he was supposed to be in that movie or not, but
Or instead of Joaquin Phoenix, like Heath Ledger in the Joker movie.
Oh yeah.
That would have been very interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's like, and he was like 28 years old when he died, right? So
I don't know,
yeah,
probably.
he was just like super young, and like I would have loved to see like what other movies he was in, how he did, and it's really a shame.
Maybe someday AI will be good enough that we can just plug Heath Ledger into the role. Just kidding. It probably won't ever be that good.
Oh, I think it will be.
No, because you can't program or teach acting the way that Heath Ledger did it, I don't think.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Like, oh yeah. We're like wouldn't be as good as like his imagination and his creative.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I was gonna say like, you can definitely shoehorn him into stuff with AI, and then he'll be there. Yeah,
like you could put his face on stuff
uh-huh.
easily, and that could look really good in the future. But
yeah.
But in terms of like his acting, I don't think.
Oh yeah, AI won't be able to like imagine what it would have been like, and that's kind of like same with people though, right? It's like they couldn't have executed or come up with the things that he accomplished as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all of our top 5 favorite actors of all time. Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure to subscribe and like and review all of the things for our show. It will help support us and grow. Stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to be talking about, shocker, our top 5 favorite actresses
of all time.
Of all time. The women.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah.